Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
You can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. There is a pic that has been going around on Facebook that really got me thinking. And maybe you've seen this. It is a picture of a family, a husband and wife. I'm guessing, let's just say 45 to 50, good-looking family. They have, I think, believe it's 4 kids. Looks like a Christmas picture, right? Something that's nice. And I don't, maybe the guy's famous. I don't think he is, that posted it, but it's a picture of his family. And then this kind of not a long letter, but a couple paragraphs of what's on his mind. And it was kind of like to his family. So he's basically saying, dear extended family, the people not in that picture, meaning like moms, dads, brothers, aunts, uncles. I'm just assuming, once again, I don't know this person, but he's writing to his family, saying, hey, we love you. This is our Christmas card, but we're not going to be around you. We're not going to put up with the negativity. And it sounds like, who knows if it was alcoholism or abuse. There was clearly something really bad going on outside of their immediate family with aunts and uncles and moms and dads, maybe some abuse, physical, verbal. I don't know, but you can tell just by reading into it that there was some bad stuff happening, and he didn't want his kids to be around it. He didn't want his kids to experience, the cursing and the negativity and constant berating and alcohol abuse or whatever it was. He didn't go into specifics. Obviously, he's putting it on Facebook. But here's the interesting thing, and why I'm sharing this. I have seen so many people. I mean, if you look in the comments, it's thousands of comments now, and hundreds of people are sharing this. I've seen it multiple times in my own feed with people I know, meaning that I'm friends with on Facebook, have shared it on their profile and even tagged like a spouse saying, hey, we need to do something similar to get our kids and our family away from some other people in our family. And one, it's like, there's a lot of different emotions with that. One is like, man, that's so sad that so many people don't even want to be around their own families. But also I guess it is what it is too, right? I mean, if you had, let's just say a mom, dad, brother, aunt, uncle, whoever it is that normally you're having to go spend time with on the holidays, and they're literally just abusive or completely drunk or cursing or berating everyone or just so negative, you don't want to be around them. At some point, as a mom or a dad, you put your foot down and say, I don't want my kids around. I don't want to be around that. And I don't know, it's wild how many people are dealing with issues like that. I mean, the proof is that many people sharing it and commenting on it and relating with that, with this dad. And this wasn't about, my in-laws or whatever are super liberal or super, conservative. It wasn't anything about politics. It was more about just attitude and behavior. For at least from what I read, he didn't mention anything about their politics. I'm sure maybe even belief might have gone into that, but that's not politics. Meaning if someone's a devil worshiper and you're a Christian, you might not want to be around that person. You might not want your kids around that person. What I did love about his tone and in this little post is it was all positive. Like, hey, we're like this title of this. Yeah, we didn't pick you. We didn't pick you as our family. Not something we can change. We still love you. We're going to be praying for you. We'd love to support you and be there if you ever need help. But we're choosing not to be around you, not to spend time with you, because it's bringing everybody down. And it reminded me of that Jim Rohn, awesome author, great speaker. He's passed away now, but he was the one that said that you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I think that is so true. Looking at my life And I've been through a bunch of different stages, of the people I hang out with, from high school to college, and then kind of in that, mid 20s to 30s. And then as we got married and had kids, the type of people we hang out with, if I'm looking at my 5 closest people that I spend the most time with, we are about the average in terms of income and beliefs and weight. And I mean, everything. It's wild how that works. And think about yourself, about the 5 people you hang around with, you're kind of the average of them. It's almost like startling how true that is. And what that means, and what that should tell all of us, is the people you spend the most time with have a really big influence on who you become and who you are today. I mean, a really big influence. And we had an instant here recently with our daughter, and I won't go into all the fine details in case the other parents and stuff are listening that might know who this is. But it maybe as a parent you've been through this before, where you see your son and your daughter hanging out with someone that is going to bring them down, essentially. Assuming that we all believe and can agree with that you do become the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most, that there's some people that you come into your life that they might not be able to see it, or you might not be able to see. My daughter might be able to see it, but we can see it as parents clear as day, that, hey, this person is bringing you down in terms of their attitude, in terms of their weight. I mean, just eating habits, how they talk to people, smartness, everything. It's way, way, way down. I don't know. It's at the same point, you want your kids to learn. And so we're kind of just taking a step back, and anytime we get a chance, we're using this example. And you, even talking to Shauna about this, we literally had this conversation about, hey, you become the essentially the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with and hang around with. And it's like, what do you think about this person? You think it's uplifting you or taking you down? And even Shauna could see it. I don't think as clearly as we can as parents, but she's like, yeah, I guess you're probably taken down a little bit. So she's getting that. And so we're just constantly reminding her, because at some point, she's not going to have parents to sit there and tell her who she should be hanging out with. And as she becomes older and gets into college and moves away. And so I think it's so important for parents and even grandparents to start teaching this sermon, if you will, about, hey, you do become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I mean, if you get into a gang and you're doing thug stuff, you will most likely become a gang type of person or a thug type of person. There's zero chance you're going to be the CEO of a company or making a big impact in this world if you're hanging around those people. The only way to change that is to get out of that environment and hang out with different types of people, right? I mean, it's literally impossible to become something great that you want to be if you're hanging around the 5 people who are bringing you down and aren't doing anything great with their lives. I've never seen one again. And I'd love for someone to tell me an example of one that's not true, that it's impossible. And so I think intuitively, we all kind of know that, yet we do let some people who might be super negative or can bring us down or don't align with our goals in life. And that's essentially what this guy who I started this whole conversation with is stating. He's like, hey, family, I didn't pick you. Still love you, still going to pray for you, but you're bringing us down. You're literally bringing us down, and we don't want to be around it at all. And so I would challenge you, if you have people in your life, even family members, and that doesn't mean you never return their calls and are mean to them. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. We're all called to love one another. We're all called to pray for others, especially family. We want to lift them up any way we can, but not at our own expense, right? Not if it's literally bringing you down and impacting in a negative way your kids and your family life, and causing undue stress and grief, and maybe even potentially screwing up your kids if there was some really bad abuse or something in the family. At some point, part ways, move, get them out of your life, and until they're willing to change. At some point, it's on them, not just you. And I've had to do that quite a few times throughout my life. I've shared one in particular in the past with someone I was really close with and spending a lot of time with, and was just so negative. And I didn't see it until my parents came to Atlanta, where I was living at the time, and they're just like, "Wow, you've kind of changed." And it took my parents really kind of sitting me down afterwards. This is after they left, and really opening my eyes to how negative and just belittling and stuff I had become. And it happens really slow. It's not something that happens fast, which is kind of like the whole frog in the boiling pot. It happens really slow. So hanging around someone for a week is not going to make this type of change in your life. It doesn't, habits don't form that quickly. It's something that takes a while. And I had another great friend that's that I've known for a long time, and she was, I would just say, a pretty conservative person and a Christian person, and just real loving and positive attitude, and ended up working in a government agency around a lot of people who hated Christianity, hated Christians, and let's just say were on the way far liberal side, to the point where even people who might vote for Democrats would shake their head and saying, "You guys are way off base. You're out of control." I'll just leave it at that. And what was interesting is, so we got a nice, loving, conservative Christian person who gets thrown in that environment, right, where they're working with other people who share the exact opposite beliefs for 8 hours a day. And as you can imagine, nothing changed in that first week. And this girl would come home and, tell friends and stuff, "Man, the people I'm working with are crazy. Like, they believe this stuff that just, it's not even in the realm of what we should all be believing." But what was really interesting and fascinating is I got to watch this person, who I won't name, as time went on, being around these people and just hearing the conversations they were having about how awesome Black Lives Matter was. It was around that time when all that was happening, how awesome Black Lives Matter, and we're all going to take the day off and protest, and just all of that stuff. Over time, this girl started getting pulled into that, and really started thinking, well, hey, maybe Christians do stink, and maybe they're horrible, and they're all bigots and hypocrites. And completely started transforming this person just from being around these people. And once again, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it wasn't until she got out of that job and quit and did something else, where it was almost like she realized, holy smokes, I was almost like getting brainwashed by being around these people all day long, 8 or 9 hours every single day. It's wild and scary how much you can change in a somewhat short amount of time. Like I said, it doesn't happen overnight, but in a year or two, it's amazing that everything about you can kind of change just based on the people you spend the time with. So all that being said, this is maybe time to do a little analysis. Are there any people in your life that are bringing you down that you could, quote unquote, replace with someone better that levels you up with whatever you might be dealing with, right? Because I do believe, even if I look at my friends, my 5 closest people I hang around with, I'm like the average of them in terms of weight and health and how much I read, all of that stuff. It's not just one thing, like, oh, how much money you make. Or your attitude. It's all of that stuff combined. It's really fascinating. So I would challenge you to really spend some time thinking about who you're spending the most time with. It could be one of the most important things you ever do. I don't think many of us realize how much influence this has on us. And then the other part, like, what are you feeding your mind? And because meaning, like, are you feeding your mind great things? Are you constantly thinking about how awesome life is and how blessed you are, or are you thinking negative? And once again, a lot of that goes around who you're hanging out with. When I was really close to this one person I mentioned earlier in Atlanta, it was always, everything was negative, and it was always, oh, I don't have enough. I need this. And, just life stinks because I don't have this and I'm not making this much money. It was just, everything was about that. And I ended up having a similar mindset, like, oh man, I'm just not happy. And it's amazing what that can do to your life and your mindset. And I'm such a big proponent of what you feed your mind is, just like being around people, has such an influence on who you become. If you're feeding your mind positive thoughts, right? Versus, when I was going through all my anxiety, guess what I spent a lot of my time doing? Feeding my mind negative thoughts, right? And that's what people with anxiety do. If you're dealing with daily anxiety like I was, guess what I was doing every day? I was feeding my mind with negative thoughts. Well, what if this happens? Or gosh, what if I get there and I have a full-on panic attack? I was constantly feeding my mind negative stuff. And lo and behold, what do you know? I was dealing with daily anxiety attacks. And it's not easy to come out of that. I mean, it's so much of it is mindset. There's the breathing part of it. There's the faith part of it. There's the mission and kind of having a purpose. And then there's the mindset. At some point, you've got to change your mind on who you're becoming and what you're feeding into your mind. I stress that so much with all the emails I get from people who've watched that video on anxiety, that, the breathing that I mentioned on there, and the faith part of it, the mission, it's those are the three critical pieces, but that all ties into mindset, right? Until you change your mind and stop feeding it so much fear and just start saying, hey, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I'm going to be positive. I'm alive. I got my health. I'm just not going to let this get me down today. And the more you keep doing that, once again, just like what we've been talking about, none of this happens overnight. You can't just do it for one day and say, oh, I'm going to have a positive attitude today and my anxiety is going to completely go away. No, it takes some time. So that's the big challenge on this one, is look around at the people you're spending time with. And if you have kids or grandkids, do it with them and maybe share this same kind of message. You don't have to share the whole podcast if you don't want. I'd love for you if you do, but just talk about that. The 5 people you spend the most time with have a massive influence on who you are today and who you become. So do a little survey on who you be hanging around with. And if you have to make changes, make changes. Talk to your spouse, talk to your kids, grandkids. And it could be one of the most powerful things that you do. So love you guys. Hope this was helpful. And I will talk with you in the next episode. If you have any questions, thoughts, prayer requests, etc., my email, joe@saltstrong.com. I would love to hear from you. And if this is relatable, or if you've gone through something similar, let me know. Everything that anyone sends is all 100% confidential. I will talk to you on the next episode. 'Cause fishing